Hello.
Hello.
Hello, good to see you.
It's lovely to meet you finally. I feel like I know you quite well, but it's the first time we've met. Um, Look, there's a lot of recurring themes today, I think, and um, yeah, I want to really try and put what I want to say. Um, I've been anticipating this meeting for a wee while, and I'd been thinking about what I was going to ask about. There was something that had been on my brain quite a bit. But last night I had an experience, which is a really typical experience for me. And now that's top of the agenda, but it all kind of fits in together. Um, so last night I was at a public meeting, and I got up and spoke. And then afterwards, immediately afterwards, I'm like, oh, damn, I didn't even say the main thing that I was going to say. And so then that turns into a kind of self-flagellation thing. Now, this is a very strong passion of mine. I've done it with, I'm a person who has extremely strong emotions that have had to be held back a lot. You can hear I'm already crying before I start to talk. And I've recognized in my life, I've done a lot of self-work and stuff, and I've recognized that my thought patterns exacerbate my feelings, and then it just gets into that vicious cycle and it gets more and more and more. So I've done a lot of work on not letting myself embellish those thoughts or think about them. So I do this self-flagellation about the speaking a lot less than I used to.
Mm.
However, it does still happen. And because I know it's such a recurrent theme for me, it's one of the reasons that I'm most keen to see through self and ego, is because there are some situations in my life where so being in particular committees and things like that, where if I could just let life flow through me, I feel I would do a lot better job. So what happens in the moment when I'm talking, and so I'm finding this right now easier than when I'm in an in-person meeting. Yeah, I get completely contracted. So much so, like it's the nervousness that you can see in me now is probably tenfold when I'm speaking to people in person in a group, which makes it very difficult physically to talk. But then because there's that such physical stuff going on, my head just goes empty.
Yeah.
So I babble for a bit,
Yeah.
but then I miss the really most important things that I wanted to say.
Mm.
So I know there's a lot of this is related to shame, although prior to seeing some of your videos, Pernilla, I wouldn't have put that as my toxic starting point. But yeah, just in relationship to Beth and what she was saying, it's a very similar kind of process for me. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say in terms of the fetters, like I'm still working on the first three. I feel like in my previous work that I've done with depression and stuff, I've probably worked on 4 and 5 quite a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the moment, I'm still very much in my
Yes.
person. Yeah.
Yes. 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 And first of all, I would like to compliment you. I would like to compliment you on two things. The first thing is coming here and speaking when you know that As the moment you start to share how you actually feel, you get really, really vulnerable. It's super, super brave of you to do that. I would like to compliment you for standing up in a room full of people where you know what is going to happen, but it's a cause that is very dear to you and it's important for you to do it, so you do it anyway. I really would like to compliment you for that. I also want to say that working on the first 3 fetters, it's exactly what you're supposed to do with the issue at hand. So all of that is perfect. What I'm hearing is that you have had an upbringing where you having any kind of emotions was not received well. That whatever emotion you had, that was in the way, and you would need to pack it up because it was inconvenient, or there can be a tons of different reasons. Your parents can have been in a ton of different ways. Everything for being, abusive towards you when you showed emotions, to being absolutely, utterly indifferent of whatever need you had. When we grow up and we're not taught how to manage our emotions, they get suppressed. Which means that when we are adults and we are in a safe position in our life and we can actually start to look at it, we start to get burst of rage. That's for a lot of men, they experience that, or burst of shame, burst of guilt, burst of fear. And all that is being expressed in an anxiety, in depression, in blind rage, in all of those different ways. All of them are just showing us that now, my love, you are in a position where you can actually look at this, that you got your back. And I love that you're doing that. I really, really love that. I think it's so commendable. Is that, yeah, it's so commendable that you're doing that. I really, really love that. What you talk about when you're that again, there are 2 things, and I'm sure you're gonna address one of them. What you talk about when you're in the situation and you feel that that you're the next one that is going, you're in the group of, there's a lot of people, you're going to stand up shortly. You can feel your pulse pulsating in your throat. You can feel how you're almost like blanking out. You have like very, very black around you, tunnel vision, clammy hands, you can hardly breathe, and you have like very, very strong tinnitus in your ears. And the closer the time gets to you standing up and speaking, the more disconnected do you feel. In that moment, you are very, very close to a physical sensation that has been overlooked your entire childhood. You're stepping back through time to all those incidents where you have had a feeling of being on the spot and being wronged in the spot where you were at. So you doing that it's absolutely amazing. I think you're doing everything right. The next thing I would like for you to do, and the next time that you're in that situation, it's to, when you're sitting there with clammy hands, pulse in your throat, tunnel vision, all of that, bring love into the situation. Lots and lots of love. Fucking hell, woman, you are fierce. You're sitting here with clammy hands and pulsating in your throat, tunnel vision and tinnitus, and you're fucking still gonna stand up and talk. You're fierce. Fucking fierce. And when it's then, Jen, your turn, then you just stand up in your fierceness, and you breathe into it, and you allow yourself to be nervous. You allow yourself to have tears strolling down your face, if that is what is happening, clammy hands, not hearing anything, being in that, and you just allow yourself to be in that and say what comes out of your mouth. And if it's blank and you don't know what to say, just stay with that. Breathe with that. Just stay with that. Even if it ends up with you standing for 20 minutes not saying a word, because it's that needs, and I promise you won't be standing for 20 minutes. It might be like 10 seconds. It would feel like 20 minutes. But you just allowing you to have your back, like a bodyguard that Jen is standing there all nervous, and Jen is the bodyguard. And when anybody is trying to go, well, should we let the microphone? Then the bodyguard goes like, "Shut down," like Mr. T. You're your bodyguard. You're there to protect yourself, and whatever comes up, it's fine. You got your back.
Okay, thanks. Yeah,
I would like to point to you about, because you have had so much anxiety in your life.
Seriously.
So much with the agoraphobia, and we have been working a lot with that, about now in reverse, going back into the feeling. Can you say anything that would be relevant or useful? Also, if it's not.
It's a really good question. Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, I have been through all of that. I've been through the social anxiety and I mean, it's funny actually to think like back when I was going to, I don't know if you've been to Vince's meetings or know who that is or anything. After Liberation Unleashed, Vince was doing meetings and I would go and actually even before that, I think it was even before Vince's meetings, Liberation Unleashed had meetings, but I would go and it was a Zoom thing just like this. And I would be sitting there feeling like until like I know I'm gonna have to talk at some point, and like what is the feeling, when is that going to be? And then it was like as it got closer, like I knew, everybody else had said something except for me or whatever, and then like I knew that it was going to be, it would just get amped up and amped up, and then after I would say something there would just be this relief. And so even in that there was this completely no pressure situation, and yet just having the spotlight on me, just having the eyes focus this way. And the irony is, I mean, this was even after having gone through Liberation Unleashed. So it's like even without the belief in the self, without the feeling of the self, there is still this old habit of eyes directing in, being put on the spot, and then blanking. And really it was just sort of like over time of going to the meetings, and then I just became more and more comfortable with it. And then obviously now it's like, it's not a second thought. That was something that just kind of happened by doing it and just getting more comfortable with it. But in general, I think, um, it, you know, feeling into those, since just like we've been telling everybody, feeling into those sensations that come up with that anxiety, and the instead of immediately pushing it off that, oh no, it's happening again, this is, something that I've been here so many times, just see it as a brand new manifestation. It's just something that is just showing up for the first time ever. And isn't this a curious thing to be experiencing? And if you have that sort of dissociation, then isn't that a funny thing? Like where's the self in that dissociative state where all of a sudden like you're blank? We do how much meditation to become blank, and yet it's like it happens when we don't think we want it. But get curious about the sensations that are happening, and then recognizing that the experience itself is a very interesting one when we don't put on it all of the weight of this is a social hindrance, or this is something where I should be able to do this but I can't. And then like last night where you said, after you talked and then you forgot that you didn't say the main thing that you wanted to say, and then instead of all the self-flagellation and going into all of the reasons why that was such a bad thing, just recognize that you did your absolute best in that situation. Have love and compassion for the way that it turned out. Think of all the positive things, what you did actually say. And instead of taking everything as a loss, start to see it as the win for what actually happened. You actually stood up, you did it, you put yourself into an uncomfortable situation.
Went there with the intention of saying something.
Exactly. You had all of these different positives that then, there were markers of progress, but they get completely overlooked because you only lean on the, oh, but I didn't say the thing that I was going to say, and I did get shaky, and I, it did go blank for a minute, and all of that. That doesn't matter. Focus on the positive side of what actually happened. And it does get easier the more you engage with these things without the fear about what's going to happen. Because as I'm sure the the anxiety about anxiety is so much worse than the actual, anything that actually happens from it. Do you resonate with that?
Yeah. It's often it's I know that it's very much attached to defending this self,
Yes.
because a lot of the situations that I'm in, and the committee that I'm on, which like I've stayed on it because I know it's a great learning. It's the place where I can do the most learning because it brings this stuff up every single time.
Yep.
But to an extent that I'm not sure that it's healthy in my life, because it's a committee, it's about the environment. And essentially, I'm kind of the token greenie on the committee.
Okay.
And so it feels a lot like a battleground where you know I'm on the losing side, certainly, but I also I know that I in watching one of your videos, I had the sudden recognition of like, of course, feeling so much doubt trying to defend something that's a fabrication.
Yes.
like how are you not going to have doubt about that? And that's what it feels like a lot, like I'm trying to defend a fabrication. Whereas I know, on another hand, that if I could let go of that fabrication, I could actually feel a lot more solid in who I really am. So it's that that's kind of the main things around. And then in the aftermath of doing any talking in those situations, it's the feeling of that I didn't do a good enough job, that I'm not enough, that I'm a bit rubbish. Yeah.
No, you go first.
Oh, okay. Well, the first question I was going to ask is, do you feel embarrassment for that emotionality? Because you said you're a very emotional person, you get that shakiness. Is there?
Like, I've gotten over the embarrassment enough to do the talking in spite of that. But these are situations where that kind of emotionality is not openly welcomed. So, for example, I mean, I feel a lot more comfortable here now. Yeah.
Well, go ahead, and then I'll kick in.
Yeah, no, it was just a part that you said about before, with standing in the situation and knowing that that is the first time that you are in that situation with that manifestation happening right now. Because when you have an idea of this always happens, that's a lie. It doesn't. This is the first time that you are in that committee talking about this topic yesterday. That was the first time you were in that committee talking about that topic, having the blanking out when that happened, feeling afterwards that you didn't get your message across. All of that was the first timer. And you might say, no, I've been in that committee for 5 years. It happens every single time. But every single time is still the first time that is happening. We just believe in that linearity that is actually not there. And there's a lot of identification in that linearity. That if you really truly see that this moment that you're standing and speaking in the committee, it is brand new. And there is no, it's what you talked about with when there's no identification with the topic and no identification with it, that if you really know that this is a brand new topic, it's a brand new I standing talking here in front of the committee, it's a brand new experience, everything that is happening right now has never ever happened before, and this moment is different, and this moment is different, and this moment is different. It brings you a calm because there's no expectation to any outcome. And whatever you said yesterday was what you were supposed to say yesterday. It's just an afterthought that you should have said something else. You clearly shouldn't. If you should, you would have. It's like you pretend that there's like a parallel universe where Jen said all the brilliant things at the committee meeting. That doesn't exist. You said exactly what you were supposed to say. The seeds that you planted in the other ones, even though you might just be, a trophy member, you know, it's a token member, as you call it. You still said the things that were the exact seeds at that moment that were supposed to happen. There's no parallel universe where you said all the right things. This is what is, you know? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And that's actually the brand new idea that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would just
Yeah.
say also, because it's such an emotionally loaded topic, like there's a lot of passion behind it because we feel like there's a lot at stake, right?
Yeah.
So when you go into that, especially if you're kind of the token voice of environmentalism and
Yeah.
green side of things, I'm sure you feel that weight. Like you have the pressure of, the entire environment and all the animals and all the, everything is on your shoulders in that moment. But it helps to get some perspective from that and recognize that it's one conversation in one committee, and that most likely the entire fate of the world does not rest on your shoulders alone. And so
There,
getting
there,
some
there are
perspective
there
from
are
that.
thousands of committees
Yes.
with another thousands of brothers and sisters standing and being just as nervous and doing exactly the same. It's a choir of people that are standing right next to you and saying the same thing. So you are allowed to be nervous.
Yep. But also recognize that you can breathe
Yeah.
and you can relax, and that we are all deeply thankful for what you're doing, but that you can, it's not all on you alone, and that it's okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you. I do know that. I've done a lot of stuff as well about, that I can work in this little space, but not the whole world. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like the same sort of thing that we do where from uh Beth being not the best painter in the world, so she's a rubbish painter, to I know I'm just trying to do my best for the environment in this little committee, but yet we can just make it into this huge thing, just like any other little uh I don't know, bad at examples today. Just anything that's like the tiniest thing that it's the tiniest seed of something that when not looked closely at, again, it's the elephant in your periphery, that it seems like such a huge thing. It's just this crushing weight of expectation. And then when you look at it, it's like, oh no, actually it was just one meeting and this one little committee, and
Yeah.
it kind of
It's
dissolves.
it's a bit like our motto for everything Todd and I do with our YouTube channels, with the awakening curriculum, with all the meetings, with all the inquiries and all of that. Our motto for it is saving the world one awakening at a time. And it's that having a greater, how can I say it, not goal, but a greater vision that we go from, but knowing that it's completely out of our hands and it's just one little seedling that we can plant in what we're doing, but it's still in that direction that we go. It's the same you're doing with your committee, that it's you're part of a bigger wave that is moving. Um, so you're allowed to have clammy hands and tunnel vision and go blank.
And on a purely practical level, I don't know, have you tried putting yourself in a mental situation where you are seeing yourself standing in front of all of these people to feel that sensation, and then practicing like your talking points and the things that you're going to do?
It's kind of funny when if I imagine it goes much better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Imagine
But
it
I
in
also know that I
yeah, but
spend
it's
time thinking about it sometimes.
Yeah, but imagine it when you are in situations where you feel a bit out, because normally when we imagine that, we're in the quiet and solitude of our home. We have all the things around us. We have surplus, a hairbrush in our hand and in front of the mirror. You know, imagine it when you are standing in line in a grocery shop. In a moment, I'm going to speak. And then you feel it. And then you start to go through your mind how you're going to speak and how you, so you have that physical sensation that just wants you to go like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. It's in those situations you should practice and do the inquiries to when you're doing it.
Yeah. Thank you. I will. Look, I've got a low battery message on my
Okay.
machine,
Thank you
so
so
I
much
don't
for
want to
being
black
here.
out in the
Loved it
middle.
so much
But yeah,
meeting you. Yeah.
thank you. I'll see you again in a couple of weeks.
Look
Love
forward
it.
to it.
Loved it. Bye.